All right, guys, welcome back. My name is Jack Paisley, and this is the Sports Casual. And we have huge news to talk about. And this will be a first time for this channel. Uh, we're talking NBA. And to be fair, I am a very casual NBA fan, so we are definitely owning up to the name of the Sports Casual today. But the kind of this is the biggest trade that I remember really since the last Anthony Davis trade, and he's involved again. So the Lakers are trading Anthony Davis and some other picks and players for Luka Doncic from the Dallas Mavericks. And there's a lot of moving parts to this deal, but we're gonna focus on the main two stars of this trade, and we're not gonna get into the trade picks really, or any of the kind of lesser named NBA players that got involved in this deal, because there was a third party as well. We're just gonna focus on the big two, and I think this is exactly why the Lakers are the Lakers in terms of how many people just love them. Other than the historical side of their franchise, whether that's Magic or Kobe or uh, whoever you want. Wilt, I think, played for them for a long time. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, uh, they take swings and basically the damn the consequences. I think they gave up like a first rounder in 2029, so no one really cares. Like that's almost 5 years away. That no one gives a shit. Like at that's somebody else's problem. There's a good chance that the GM aren't even there. That they take these giant swings to get these stars there, and I actually think this is a really good move for the Lakers. The Mavs not so much. For the Lakers, you secured the guy that you're going to build around for the next, 5 to 10 years, and is universally regarded as one of the top three players in the NBA. And you gave up basically obviously a highly skilled, really good long term, debatable Hall of Famer in Anthony Davis, and basically a first round pick, and then some players that no one is gonna miss if you're on the Lakers, unless you're they're your friend or your family or something like that, and you gave that up for one of the most talented basketball players we've ever seen. Like the craziest part to me for this deal is that Dallas approached the Lakers. Like the Dallas are fed up with Luka, and they're trying to basically they're in full they're borderline in full rebuild mode. But for the Lakers, you get this guy that is this top three. Like every year, everybody's talking about him in the MVP. Like scored 74 points. I think it was a year or two ago. Like this stud, like the face of international basketball outside of either Jokic in Denver or Giannis, and it's just whoever's having the best year. Which right now it's probably Jokic, but outside of that, Luka's borderline the face of the NBA when he's healthy, and you're pairing him with LeBron James. And I don't really think they're going to make a splash this year in terms of a title run, but the Lakers need to utilize LeBron's last. I bet he's got one more year after this, maybe two if he's really feeling it, to use him as this mentor to Luca. Because the big concern the Mavs had, other than the injury concern, is his conditioning. He apparently is always out of shape. He tries to play himself into shape, so then he's hurt or just doesn't play well because he's tired. And so putting him around one of the sports world's most notorious in a good way or well-renowned workhorses who dumps like millions of dollars into his body every year to maintain this peak physical condition and just like the dream pro basically, and you're putting Luca around him. Like I don't think that he's going to be super effective in the way that he's playing or anything like that, but you can hope that he utilizes that time with LeBron to learn the way that LeBron has been able to make it to 40 with relatively few long-term lasting injuries outside the occasional rolled ankle or something like that where you it's just part of the game, and you can start to build around this guy as best as you can. And worst case, he's gonna put butts in seats. Like with a bad Dallas team a couple years ago, he is still A-list TV, and they have basically found their heir apparent to LeBron James. And it wasn't Bronny James, which is a great story, and I still hope that it works out for him. It's not Anthony Davis, who did his best, but it's Luka Doncic. And then looking back on the trade for Anthony Davis, like you can't argue that it wasn't a win. Like obviously, one they got the championship, which everybody kind of puts an asterisk next because it was the bubble, but it's still a championship at the end of the day. Like it's still got the banner up in the rafters, and it's still in the history books. And then you secured your next superstar, utilizing him in a trade package that's not that far off from a straight up trade. I mean, it's like playing 2K. Like this is the kind of stuff that you honestly you probably even couldn't get this to go through in 2K. That it's a big deal. And then for Dallas, like you're basically admitting defeat is gonna be how it's gonna come off to your fans. Like I heard this is a win now mode for them because obviously Anthony Davis is still playing All Star level basketball, and you're plugging him in with Kyrie and Clay and their roster, but it's got to just be dejecting for that team and that fan base to lose this like generational style player that just can't quite get the physical like conditioning right. It's got to be just tough. Like it's if you're a Dallas fan, how can you be excited about this? Like, and they're apparently worried about paying him the supermax and injuries and all this stuff. But it's still you've got this building block player, and you can't like looking back now from Dallas's perspective, like the whole Trey Young versus Luca thing. Everybody thought that Dallas won that hands down because Trey has been a very productive player, but he hasn't been in MVP conversations. And now you're basically throwing all that out and starting from scratch. You found your centerpiece, and you said, nope, we can't get him to work. Like even New Orleans with Zion and all his issues have doubled down because you can't be wrong on those guys when they're stars like that. And in this case, they were. And I think this is the biggest trade since like Chris Paul to the Clippers that I really remember, or Anthony Davis when he actually went to the Lakers. Like it's a big deal, and I don't know the next time you're gonna see this style of trade because I mean, unless barring Giannis or maybe Jokic getting traded, and Jokic I would even say isn't as big a deal as trading for Luca. I would say unless Giannis Antetokounmpo or maybe Wemby gets traded, that's the only one that's going to hold the candle in the next 10 years. That this was a big deal, and a lot of fans it was blindsided by. Maybe people in the know kind of knew it, but fans, no one was expecting it. So, yeah, props to the Lakers, and if I'm Dallas, you better hope this all works out quick because you guys weren't far off from winning it all the last 2 years, and now you basically threw all that away. So we'll see. But shifting gears a little bit, we had a UFC fight night, and there's only going to be two fights we talked about. This was out in Saudi, but this was Israel, the last style bender, Adesanya versus. I'm not even going to attempt his first name to be honest. He's a French dude, but his last name is Imavov, and Imavov knocks Izzy out in the second round. And honestly, like there are two fighters, honestly three. I'll give you three fighters that if you are a true UFC fan, you cannot cheer against. Like it's just like against the Bible almost in terms of UFC fans, and that is Israel, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira. Those are the three guys that are just universally loved. That if you cheer against, like you're just a monster. And it did like it bummed me out. I was kind of prepared for it because I thought it was going to be more of a grappling fight and he would lose on points. I didn't think he'd get knocked out, but it did bum me out. And he was up on the scorecard, so he won that first round. He was looking good and just got caught basically. But I think we're it made me kind of sit back and think about how we're going past kind of that golden age of MMA that we had in the last, I would say, 5 years when you had guys like Israel. Uh, you kind of got the tail end of Connor, but not really Connor. Volkanovski, you got Holloway in there. And then you got these guys just kind of Usman, Kamara Usman was in there as well. And you got these guys just kind of aging out. As sad as it is to say, I mean, in this sport, it's a brutal end of their careers a lot of the time. Tony Ferguson was in there as well, and he's facing that now. Justin Gaethje, and you're seeing these guys hit that like mid to upper 30s, and they're just a little bit behind. Like Israel, he's clearly still fast. He's still really good at what he does, but he's getting a little chinny. He's gotten popped a couple times in his last three. He got dropped by Sean Strickland, and then this fight got knocked out. Duplessis hurt him a little bit, and then obviously the Pereira stuff. That it's really sad for me to say it, but like the fan in me kind of wants him to retire just so it doesn't tarnish that memory I have of him at his kind of peak. That he literally doubled lapped the whole division up until Alex Pereira came in, and then he kind of busted his wad trying to beat him finally, and that kind of felt like the culmination of his whole journey as he finally got back at this dude that he just couldn't get past, and emotionally felt like he dumped all of that into that, and that was his like purpose to end his career. And it's tough now, and I my dream send off for him would just be for him to get one last win and then just peace out after that, probably, just because he seems like such a good dude that I want him to go out on a solid note. But there's also it feels like he's got to fight that perfect fight now because of his style is all striking, and he's getting hit that. And obviously it's been 5 round fights, so you gotta be perfect for 25 minutes. It's really hard to do. So congrats to Imavov. I don't think he's next for the title. Hamzat Shemaev is going to get the winner of uh, Sean Strickland and Dricus Duplessis. If Sean somehow wins that, they're probably going to have a rematch, if I'm honest. And then Hamzat's going to get the winner. So Hamzat's going to get the next title shot that's not named Duplessis or Strickland. And I think Imavov probably has to win one more. I mean, if somebody falls out or hurt, or if they really wanted to spice it up, they'd make Imavov versus Hamzat, which I think that's a tough fight for Imavov as well as everybody. But yeah, it was just a little depressing to watch that transition into that next stage of MMA. Is kind of one of those last pillars that we had for a while. And then the co-main was Michael Venom Page versus Shara the Pirate Magomedov. Russian names always get me, but Shara is the pirate. He's got the one eye that he's blind in, wears the bandana all the time, friends with Ronaldo. And then Michael Venom Page is a former, I believe, Bellator champ and a superstar and fun striker to watch. And these two were paired up because it was supposed to be fireworks on the feet. Like Michael Venom Page is a 170 pounder, came up to 185 just for this fight because of Shara's kickboxing and taekwondo and all that stuff, and it was just a fun matchup. And I think you kind of saw today that there's just like Michael Venom Page showed that there's levels to this game in terms of striking. I thought he was ahead one step ahead of Shara the whole time. Shara looked nervous and slow, at least by his standards. He didn't throw a lot of volume, but it was a fun fight. Michael was throwing some wild stuff at him, throwing like these crazy spinning kicks and all this stuff that, I mean, it lived up to the billing in my opinion, short of a finish in terms of a fun strikers match. Outside of that, I didn't think there was any crazy fights that we would talk about if you're not like a diehard UFC fan. The next biggest one was Jar- Jarzinho Rosenstruck versus Sergey Pavlovich, and it was just kind of a boring fight. They're both heavyweights, and they just didn't want to kind of go for it. So Sergey gets the win, and he's probably 2 fights away realistically, unless he gets something crazy in dramatic fashion from a title shot. He kind of had his shot against Tom and got flatlined, and then I believe he lost his last fight if I remember right. So heavyweights is in a funky spot. Outside Tom Aspinall, you don't really have that clear cut number one contender just because you got all the piling up. You got Cyril Gahn, and then Volkov is up there, but outside of that, there's not really a clear path. But you got to secure that top spot between John Jones and Tom Aspinall for anything changes. But yeah, those were the two big news that came out or either happened or dropped today. Was the Israel Adesanya got upset, and then Luka Doncic is coming to the Los Angeles Lakers, and Anthony Davis's time in LA has come to an end. His time in Dallas has begun. So, thank you for watching, and this is Jack Paisley and the Sports Casual.